I feel like this term is being thrown around a lot, and it's kind of giving everybody a lot of anxiety when things don't go according to plan or when life happens, and you need to shift and adapt. That's when that concept of being consistent can kind of get in our way. Welcome to the Productive Introvert Community Podcast, helping ambitious introverts who feel deep down that they can add more value to the world to really thrive in their work. I'm Mariela Franker, and I'll be sharing what I'm learning as an introverted entrepreneur, a natural productivity coach, and a mom while I build my business online and take care of my family and myself. In this podcast, you'll learn the mindset and the practical steps to naturally increase the impact of your work while making space for your unique strengths as an introvert. Hi, it's Mariela. I wanted to talk to you today about consistency. My son is with me today. He was a bit sick, so he stayed home from school. So you may hear some little noises in the background. My husband and I have decided not to show our son online yet until he's a little bit older. So he won't be coming in the frame, but he's in the space with me. He stayed home from school, just started school 1 week. Honestly, I don't think he's really sick. He's actually quite fine. He was coughing a little bit this morning, but he's okay. Yeah, yes, I'm talking about you. But he's actually quite fine. Honestly, I think he has an introvert hangover. If you don't know what that is, you ever have that when you've been really, really busy or you've had a lot of social interactions, meeting lots of new people. I have it when I go to a party, for example, or when I've been to a conference, just, talking with a lot of people, having a lot of these impulses. And then the next day you feel like basically hungover or you physically get ill. That is very typical of the introvert hangover. And honestly, I think that's what's been going on with him. So we decided to keep him home and let him decompress. Introvert Adhere is a blog that I read from time to time, and they have a couple of good articles about that. So I'll link to that in the description if you're interested in learning more about that. So yes, on to the topic of today. Consistency. Yeah. So if you follow the podcast or if you're on my mailing list, you probably know that I'm not super consistent. I don't publish my podcast or send my newsletter on the same day and time every week. I've actually moved it around a little bit also. Half of that was testing to see what days and times work best for my people. And another part of that was, just life, literally like this. Sometimes stuff happens and you have to adapt and shift. And it's very easy to feel really guilty about that and to feel, hold on, let me help him with this. Oh, he got it. It's easy to feel guilty and to feel like you're not doing a good job if, the podcast isn't out every week at 8 a.m. on Friday. And for a while I felt like that too. I still feel like that sometimes. It is important to be consistent. And with that, sticking with something and doing something repeatedly to kind of learn what you need to learn to develop your skill set. I feel like this term is being thrown around a lot, and it's kind of giving everybody a lot of anxiety when things don't go according to plan or when life happens, and you need to shift and adapt. Being consistent, like all different areas. You need to consistently show up online. But I feel that's when that concept of being consistent can kind of get in our way, right? You have to, send your newsletter consistently every week. You gotta show up consistently. Consistency. And I have mixed feelings about this one. What does it mean to be consistent? More importantly, what does it mean to you to be consistent? And in terms of content creation, like this, the podcast, that's some content, or your newsletter or social media. In terms of content creation, the reason people advise consistency is because there is so much out there. There's basically a lot of for lack of a better word, noise. Like, of course, it's not noise because everybody's putting out their stuff. And I assume everyone wants to put out their best stuff. So it's not necessarily noise. But meaning that if you only share something once a year, you're probably not going to be top of mind for people. And they will forget that you are even there. It sounds rude, but it's true. Like, how many times have you been online and you see someone posting daily? You kind of remember that person, right? Whereas someone who's not there that often, you don't really remember, or you kind of miss the context of what was this person doing again. So those are some of the reasons why people advise consistency. I do feel that there's a difference when you are a full-time content creator and when your core business is something else. So this was actually recently brought to my attention by one of my mentors. I never quite thought of it that way, but that a full-time content creator, for example, if you're a YouTuber, your main business is to create content. That is your business model. That's ultimately how you make your money, through the content that you make on your channel, for example. Whereas a business like mine, I am a coach. So the content that I create is not necessarily my core business. It is a way for people to get to know me. But my core business is coaching. So keeping in mind that difference, I think it's important when you frame that idea of consistency. And that's why I said in the beginning, more importantly, what does consistency mean to you? So that's one thing, like putting it in the context of your business and whatever it is that you're doing, the role that it plays in your business and your business model. And another part of that question of what does it mean to you is, what is the most important thing to you personally when it comes to being consistent? Like I said, I'm not that consistent, especially when I compare myself to other people. And that's inherently, there's a pitfall there, right? That comparison trap. But putting that aside for 1 minute, when I look at other people, people are posting on all different social media channels every day, for example, or a couple of times a week. Whereas I am active maybe on one channel right now, and I post every couple of weeks, at most every week if I'm feeling like really engaged. And my main channel is LinkedIn. And honestly, I haven't posted for at least 3 weeks, I think, at this stage. And with posting, I mean a new piece of content that has the purpose of telling people how I can help them in the coaching programs. And in terms of YouTube, I bring out one podcast episode a week. And my aim is to publish on Friday mornings at 8 a.m. But I'm not super consistent with that. Like this episode, for example, is going to come out way later, probably towards the end of Friday, maybe even Saturday. The same is true for my mailing list. Is that ideal? I don't know, actually. There's this internal conflict that even I have with that, because my inner critic is imposing this idea of, if you're going to be consistent, you need to be consistent into all those digits. So not really consistent in that sense, right? You'd be like, what are you doing? What I have been consistent with is bringing a podcast episode out every week. Because to me, that was the one thing that I felt was important to me around consistency. And that's why I asked you to think about what is important to you around consistency. And one thing that my mentor has taught me that has made a huge difference for me in this respect is to ask yourself the question, when would I be satisfied with my effort? And for me, the answer to that question around the podcast is if I can bring out an episode each week. So that's what I've been keeping myself to that commitment. And honestly, then it doesn't even really matter to me if it's a Friday morning or a Friday afternoon. I know that for stats and for you guys listening, it is nicer to know when something comes out and to be able to anticipate on that. So yes, I'm working towards that, but when life happens, you kind of want to cut yourself some slack. By the way, that once a week podcast flow may be changing soon, and I am probably going to be taking a break over the summer with the podcast, but I'm going to be sharing more about that in a later episode. Okay, I'm going to leave you guys with that and to hang out with my little boy for the rest of the day. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and let's talk again next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Productive Introvert Community Podcast. If you're an introverted entrepreneur and you're ready to thrive in your own way, then connect with me on thefrankermessage.com/contact.